Yay. Okay. It says we're live. Hopefully we're actually live in this moment.
Ooh, that's relative.
it's always fun going live. So happy day, everybody. Happy day. Welcome to Topic Tuesday with Joey and Joey is showing her beautiful, lovely, wonderful face today for the first time.
Nobody's ever seen me before. This is the first time ever.
It's the first time. You've just been living in a broom closet.
True.
Nobody's ever seen you before. So this is the lovely, wonderful, amazing Joey that you guys have heard her voice every week. And now you get to see her. I'm so glad that you chose to do this, sweetheart.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit, that sort of fear of being seen runs deep, but yeah, sometimes it's okay to be seen. I'm learning that.
It is.
As long as you keep the healthy boundaries up, right? You want to do all that good stuff.
Boundaries are what keep us safe.
When
we are practicing healthy boundaries, it can be safe to be seen.
Yeah.
Hi, Betsy.
It's the best way to help the peeps, man.
Yes.
I can't hide out and be like, well, if I can help someone, they'll find me eventually.
Here's the thing, you guys. Betsy said hi. I don't know if you saw that or not yet, Joey.
Oh, yeah. Why?
Here's the thing. Joey is an amazing Akashic Records reader and healer herself. And she's going through the journey of stepping into that role. And so her doing these lives with me has been not only her helping me get back into the saddle again, but also her proving to herself that she can do this, and so she is. And so she is. And I'm so excited. It's more fun to talk to your face.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like you've converted me slowly. You're like, oh yeah, phone call's fine. Well, just Zoom, but you don't have to turn on the camera. Oh, okay. If you turn on the camera, I promise it's just me that sees it. Baby steps.
Oh, wait.
No, perfect. I knew your ploy the whole time, but still, sometimes it takes a little bit of brain effing.
I know what you're trying to do, but I'll go into it. Okay.
That's so funny because the gal I do the KJ that I like doing karaoke with, she's one of my favorite people in the entire world, but she does that with me. She inches me towards it. Well, if you were going to sing a song, what might you sing?
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
Baby steps are still steps.
The first time first couple times she let me sing with the mic off. I was singing with someone else. I was like, just turn my mic off. I promise I'll be loud. Just turn the mic off.
Singing karaoke has been one of the things that Joey's been using to practice, getting seen and being seen. So that's what that's all about. So
that's what that's about, as well as singing itself for me is immensely personal. So and I'm immensely self-critical. So I'm not in every other way anyway, but yeah.
It is. I have been singing karaoke I got sober through singing karaoke.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting because the rule with AA is you don't go into a bar unless you have a reason to actually be there. And for me, karaoke was personal and it was a way for me to process my emotions. And I had been raised in bars my entire life, so it was where I was comfortable. And so since I needed an excuse to be in a bar, I found karaoke. And so I would go, and the bar that I went to is Big Daddy's in Orlando. And everybody knew I was sober, and the bar never pressured me to buy anything. And they would just let me drink soda and sing karaoke. And I made so many friends, and it was such an amazing support for me during my first couple of years of sobriety. Yeah, it was great.
Okay, I'm just change he's doing on a chip clip. I'm going to change it to a toy.
Okay.
Puppy.
Joey's got a puppy, so she's got to tend to her puppy. While she's doing that, let me just give a little intro. My name is Jessica, and this is Misfit Sanctuary YouTube channel. There's Roan. Hi, Roan.
Yes,
Oh,
he's
look at
sleeping,
those
as you can
floppy
see.
ears.
My tiny little puppy of 25 pounds. 13-week old, 25-pound baby boy.
I want a dog so much. I want a dog so much.
Funny. Just the other day, I was like, I know everybody's jealous I have a puppy, but do they not understand that this is the hard part? Like, it's when they're grown up and they already know all the things that they're amazing. This is the hard part. Like,
that's the fun part. I love the hard part. I love
yeah,
the puppy stage is I know it's difficult and it's really like having kids. Like, yeah, you know the younger years are really difficult, but at some point you're gonna miss those years.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you miss it so much. I mean, I miss just like a month ago when it was EDP. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
again. Seriously. Anyway, I've been pretty lucky. He hasn't destroyed too many things except for my computer charging cord. So, just important things.
Just the important things.
Yeah.
So everybody, welcome to our Topic Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is like top priority, especially like how the world is right now and what's going on in our world right now. And so we're going to be talking about mental health, depression, and how to want to live, right? Yeah. And that might sound like a silly little topic of like, well, what do you mean how to want to live? But I feel like I'm not the only one in life who has had an experience where perhaps they didn't want to die, but they didn't know how to live. Right. Yep. And I brought myself out of it. And then I worked with clients on helping them come out of it. And if I'm really honest, it's still an ongoing thing for me. I actually made a video the other day. Joey, you weren't live with me, but I did go live and I outed myself that I was dealing with some depression. So,
I love
it. Yeah. And I talked about how I'm getting through it and what I'm doing. And so, yeah, so we're going to go deeper into it today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I was talking about how before my mom passed, happened to be in sort of an existential crisis, because apparently that's my normal state of being. And I decided to ask just anybody that I could think of that might have an interesting or inspiring answer. What was the purpose of living? What was, and my mom had this answer that felt deceptively simple, kind of actually pissed me off a little, but
was battling cancer at that point.
She actually wasn't battling the cancer yet, but she had severe osteoarthritis. She was in a wheelchair. She was housebound. I was, her main caretaker. Her husband, my father, passed away. I think at that point it'd been 2 years. And, but, I've always kind of battled with depression and that kind of thing. So that wasn't for her. It's funny. Other people I asked and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, you don't know me that well." She was like, "Oh yeah, this is just a normal Joey question." But she looked at me and she said, "The purpose is to live." And I'm just like, looking at her wasting away and obviously not wanting to live because she's missing her husband and he's been her best friend since she was 15. And so it was disappointing that that's all that there was. However, out of all of the answers, now, of course, it was my mother, so it's poignant anyway, but out of all of the answers, I think that's the one that has stuck with me the most, as well as I have to kind of keep redefining it. There's so much. So, you were talking about, and I tell your story because it's not just how to live, but it's how to want to live.
Right. Because it might be like, well, yeah, of course, the purpose of being here is to live, but what in the world does that even mean? Hi, Melinda. Welcome.
Yeah.
So, Melinda, if you're just joining, we're talking about how to want to live and
Yeah.
depression and coming out of it. Melinda joined my live the other day, so she's a little,
Oh,
she,
cool.
yeah,
So she's already on the topic. She already knows that this is where we're at.
already in the loop. Yeah, yeah. And so I want to share a little story about my experience with wanting to live and learning that what that meant, what that looked like, and my journey into that. Um, and so after Joy, had shared her experience with her mom, um, I remember that when I was in 2016, 2017, maybe even 2018. I don't remember in that time period. I was in organ failure from Lyme disease, and I didn't realize it then, but people had started to say their goodbyes. They didn't tell me that until much later, but they had said, like, I thought that was the last time I was going to see you, and yada yada yada. And so I was, really really struggling, and I was working with my dear friend and teacher. She's been my spiritual counselor, teacher, friend for over a decade now, Amber.
One minute. I'm gonna let the puppy out, but keep talking. I'm gonna turn the video off, but I think he's trying to tell me something.
so so yeah, I was struggling. I was dying. I was angry. I was really in the victim mentality. Life was unfair. Die like I didn't want to die. Dying was unfair. I was being punished. I had been sick for years, and it was just, this massive like victim mentality. And I was working with my dear friend and teacher, Amber Murphy, and she loved me enough to be brutally honest with me. And I was telling her, how unfair it was and that I didn't want to die and yada, yada, yada. And she just very frankly said, yes, you do. Yes, you do. You're dying because you've chosen to die. And from the space that I was in, that felt like an attack, right? That felt like so dismissive. It felt um insensitive and furious, but she had helped me come through enough at that point that I knew to kind of be open to what she was saying. And so I told her, that's incredibly dismissive and horrible and mean and unkind. And she was like, no, it's actually the most loving thing that I can do is to point this out for you. And everything is a choice, and our thoughts create our reality down to this point. And so looking at the fact that your body is failing and you are dying because you've made continuous choices in every moment to die. And now you're getting what you want, and it's not what you thought it was going to be like. It doesn't feel like you thought it was going to feel like. It's not happening as quickly as you thought it was going to happen, or whatever. And you just need to make a different choice. And I was furious and really shitty about it, I'm sure. And I was just like, oh, so I just need to make a different choice. And she's like, yeah, just make a different choice. You've been choosing. Like, look at, and I want you guys to reflect on this. How often do you talk unkindly to your body? How often are you in opposition with your body? How often are you being extremely self-critical? How often are you not diving into life and participating in life and instead staying on the sidelines? How often are you not using your body to be physically active, whether through exercise or some sort of activities? These are all ways. How often have you said, I don't want to be here? This was a big thing for me. I don't want to be here. I don't belong here. This isn't my home. And I had years of saying that, especially with being physically ill, it was, I don't want to be in my body. I don't want to be in my body. I don't want to be in my body. I dissociated just constantly because I didn't want to be in my body. And so, indeed, I was leaving my body. And so she says, I was like, well, fine, what do I need to do? And she's like, well, you just need to make a different choice. And what do you mean? And she was like, well, you have to choose to live. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I just have to choose to live. And she's like, yeah. And at that point, I had learned to experiment. And I was like, all right, well, fine, I choose to live. Which honestly was, even I remember saying that the first time, and I remember feeling so much fear behind making the decision to live, because I realized I had no idea what that looked like. I had absolutely no idea what it looked like to want to live. I had never had an example in my life of someone who wanted to live, who actually wanted to live, and not just who is going through the motions, right? Not just someone who is surviving. Everyone around me, there was abuse. Yeah, I've told my story multiple times. Like, there was abuse, there was alcoholism, there was drug addiction, and so yeah, I mean, my mom was active. She played softball. She did like all kinds of things, but at the same time, she was also not wanting to live. It was just like, well, I'm here, so I guess I'll do something, right? Like, well, I've got to fill my day with something because I'm alive, and I think that's what maybe a lot of us might do. It's like, instead of waking up with this like, oh, I'm so excited to live, I get to be here today, let me be super conscious about what the life is that I'm creating, we're more just like, okay, well, I'm here, so I guess I'll do something until I'm not here. If you guys are feeling this, like, let me know in the comments, if this is resonating with you at all. And so in that moment where I had made the decision to, like, okay, well, fine, I want to live, I remember feeling the fear come up of like, oh, but what is that, right? And that was really the catalyst for my healing. That moment, making the decision to want to live, not just be here, but to want to live. And I ended up, she was like, okay, great. Because I was like, okay, fine, I want to live. Okay, awesome. So do that. And that's when I was like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it looks like. And so thank goodness for Google. Because I started to research, what do people who want to live do? Like, what does that mean? What does that even mean? And at the same time, I had been starting to receive guidance. It wasn't as loud as it is now, because the guidance starts as like this little gentle whisper, and you have to really cultivate that conversation so that it gets louder and you can get that really like personal leading through life. But at the time, there was this gentle whisper, and it was just like, well, the inside is going to be reflected in the outside. So it starts in the inside. And it was like, well, how am I on a daily basis choosing not to live? Like, it was easier to start there. And it was like, well, obviously, first of all, I have to stop trying to kill myself, because at that point I had attempted suicide 6 times. And again, it wasn't because I wanted to die. It was because I didn't know how to live. I just couldn't figure it out. And the heartbreak of like not, and this is something that I think we need to be really careful about in society with people who are suicidal, because it wasn't that I wanted to die.
Yeah.
It was that I really genuinely couldn't figure out how to live. And then the world attacked me. That's what I felt. The world was at least insensitive to me not being able to figure it out. It was always my fault. And well, you're doing it wrong. And of course your life is fucked because you're doing this and this and this. Oh, I have to be careful with my language. I got a language strike.
Say F.
Can't say the F word. So, so, and that kind of dove me deeper into depression, because it was like, no, but I want to live, but I just don't know how. And I don't have any coping skills and I don't know what it looks like. And so I would just try to leave, And so first things was stop attempting suicide, like stop trying to leave. And then it was like, how are you talking to yourself? And are you talking to yourself in a way that will make you want to be in your body? If we are constantly beating ourselves up and being self-critical and shaming ourselves and guilting ourselves and all of that, then why would we want to be here? Like if I mean, forget even how other people treat us, but how are we really treating ourselves? And so it started within, like with my thoughts. And then oh, Betsy and Melinda, yeah. I'm sorry that you can relate, and I'm also glad that you can relate, because that means this is a great conversation for us to be having. Yeah, and understanding that if we feel like that, right? If we feel like, well, I'm just existing, then our life just isn't going to be very fun.
It's painful. It's why we self-medicate with anything. Food, sex, alcohol, working out.
Yeah. Anything in excess, or even not just even dissociating.
Absolutely. Just not even engaging.
Just not engaging in life. And that was one of the things that when I thought like, well, when I think of people who really enjoy living, who really want to live, what do I think of? And I thought of people who were really active in life, like, people really engaged. Yeah. Doing, going and doing social things, and doing active things with their body, whether it was yoga or working out or fun. I know some people that do like fun marathons together with their friends, not because they want to win, but just because they're moving their body in a fun way, And so it started with my thoughts, and then I was like, oh, okay, I got to move my body.
Yeah.
Like, we have to treat our body like we want our body to thrive,
Yeah.
And I know that that's easier said than done. And just, in each of these, I'm saying each of these things like, oh, well, just do this. But please know that, like, the process of me learning how to not kill myself was a very long process. It wasn't, because we're literally learning a new skill. Like, wanting to live is a skill.
Yep.
You have to have the coping mechanisms to get through life and come out on the other side of situations, or even not even come through, but like be in them in a way that we still feel like we're thriving. And so it looks like, first, the way that I spoke to myself, and I worked on that for, like 2 years. I mean, it's an ongoing thing, right?
Because you continue to choose to live.
Right. Yes. So all of this is ongoing. It's not like I figured something out and then just dropped it and then moved on to the next. It's like adding things to the toolbox while you're still using the other tools. So the
Because we do continue, it's like the issues that we find that we were working on, 20, 30 years ago, we're typically still working on in some way. We refined it, but how lucky are we? We get so many things to work on.
And that's the thing too, like going back to what we were talking about before we went live, like in this whole concept of self-talk and learning how to talk to ourselves well, part of that is like learning how to shift your perspective of the experience that you're in of not wanting to be here so that it can be joyful. And that might sound like really crazy to think of, but understanding that we chose, like, it is a blessing that we get to feel grief and that we get to feel sadness and we get to feel pain when we're not in these physical bodies in this earthly realm. We don't have access to those kinds of experiences. There are loads of souls that are just like in line to come into these human bodies to have this kind of experience. So in the first step of like learning how to be okay with not being okay, I feel like a big step in that was learning to allow and enjoy even the sadness and the pain. And the message that came while I was going through that was leaning into it. Really because we have this thing where we dissociate, or even if we're not dissociating, we're constantly trying to push the pain away, push it away, busy ourselves doing something else, shaming ourselves into a different experience or whatever. But understanding that pain and that sadness and that depression and all of that stuff, like, yeah, there's a time to come out of it, but it has a purpose. And so really allowing ourselves to feel the depression, like my rule was no more killing myself, no more trying to kill myself. And that was it. That was my only rule. Everything else was, how deeply can I allow myself to feel this sadness and this pain and this depression, and crying it out and being all emo and watching sad movies and writing sad poetry and listening to sad songs and just really immersing myself in the sadness so that it could pass. And so to do that, like if you are in a space where you're feeling depressed, or you're feeling some kind of way, first lean into it, because there is that space where it feels good to feel sad, because that duality, right, is letting us know, like, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. Like, yeah, it feels sad, but oh man, it feels good to feel sad, right? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but there is a point where it feels good to feel sad, right?
There's a lot of richness to the experience, that it's like, it gives you like that full flavor of life. And even the pain is what it's about. And it's just part of, the deal that we've made coming into this particular, existence. It's part of it. So you can actually just, if you can, sit back and realize that there is a lot of value in pain.
Right.
We could even look at it like the value is because we grow from it, sure, but even without that,
just having the experience, like realizing that this is a blip in time in our actual soul's evolution. This is like a snap of a finger, and that and the trick is, and this is like there's these paradoxes, because society will shame you for feeling sad. Like if you feel sad or depressed for any extended period of time,
and you show it. Ooh,
oh man, society is gonna just like
that.
tell you you shouldn't be doing that. And we need to really start creating our own reality. Like if you're in a reality where people are shaming you for feeling sad, then you want to be able to create a reality where it is acceptable for you to feel sad and process your emotions, and find people who can support you while you process your emotions. And in order to do that, you need to first accept feeling sad. And it's this weird alchemy that will happen of when we allow it instead of pushing it away, when we allow it, when we, as long as you don't kill yourself, when you sink into it, right? Like, and you make space for your own emotions, and you basically are like, well, fuck off anybody else that can't uh, be present for me to feel my emotions. You know, I'm going to be present for me to feel my emotions. I'm going to see what it looks like to fully dive into this. Then that is when the shift will happen. And because, and we're so, and I kind of feel like if you think about it, right? If we think about how there's this over arc of like something not quite nice trying to manipulate our environment,
Yes.
they're not going to want you to feel better. So, in order to keep you from fully diving into that experience of sadness, they're going to shame you so
Oh
that
yeah.
you do it. But so it might, so society will look like, no, don't do that. But really, the answer is to dive in deep. And what you'll realize after a period of time, right, is that eventually feeling sad will no longer feel good. Right?
Yeah.
You will get to a point where then it's like, oh, okay, well, I have felt all of the sadness, and now I don't want to feel sad, but now it'll become like a habit. Basically, it'll be it, you know, the sadness, especially if you're going through it for an extended period of time, it'll become just
A
a
pity party.
habit.
I'm yeah. We all, I've definitely had times where I've fallen into a pattern of just, self-pity, basically,
Right.
and and then I realize I'm doing it, and then I'm super mad at myself. So, hey, back to that cycle.
Right. And also realizing that through all of this, there are going to be moments that we can be aware that we have ourselves in cycles, and what beliefs surround those cycles, which, if you're dealing with that, we can work through in, say, theta sessions, for anybody that's dealing with that. But yeah, Betsy, accepting it, being honest that you're feeling it, feeling the sadness, acknowledging, listening, not denying or pretending. Yeah, full authenticity. Like, hey, girl,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
might
Oh,
not like this. Hey, partner, you might not like this. Hey, job, you might not like this. But in that of our owning and accepting our own reality, what will happen if we begin to do that? We can love ourselves in that sadness, and allow it and understand that it is purposeful. Then those things might fall away. And I know that having your marriage fail because you're depressed, for example, might seem like not a good thing, but it is a good thing, because then that marriage that can't support your authenticity will go away. And then as you continue to lean into your own authenticity, you will be a magnet for friends and partners who can hold space for your emotions. And I know that that might be hard to think that it's even possible if you've never had it, but I promise you, 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 if you begin to hold space for your own emotions, and anyone that can't hold space for the deepness of who you are, and you let them fall away, the most amazing people will come in, right?
yeah.
Because our outer reality is a reflection of our inner reality. But yeah, Sometimes it can become a downward spiral. And then once you realize that you're in a space where, oh, okay, uh, the sadness is no longer making, like, it doesn't feel good anymore. Now I feel trapped by it, right? Then that's time to shift into doing some energy work so that you can begin to shift out of the sadness. And so sometimes really beautiful poems come out of my sadness. And
Yeah.
this is a trap. This can be, not saying that this was one of my traps. This is one of the examples of how it can become a downward spiral. If we're in any amount of depression for a period of time, it can become the identity. And then we can have this almost fear of coming out of, like, the depression becomes a trap, because then it's, I don't know who I am without this depression. And this happens with a lot of like performers and writers, of like comedians, even of well, I won't have material. If I allow myself to be happy, I won't have material. If I don't stay in this depression, then I won't write beautiful, sad poems. If I don't, this is like what we tell ourselves. But just so you know, you can dive into that depression anytime you want. Like, if you want to write a sad poem, you can just dip into it. We don't have to stay in that. And so the first part of learning how to live is first acknowledging where you're at, and the sadness, and really alchemizing the duality and the bittersweetness of life. And because first we have to shift our thoughts and our thinking before we can shift the action. Like, thought will always precede action. And thoughts create the reality. So first it's going to happen internally. How am I speaking to myself? Am I speaking to myself in a way that is going to want me to want to be here? And if not, and I mean, even there, all kinds of stuff will come up. This is a tape that's playing, or why am I talking to myself this way? Maybe there's a program running that I motivate myself through self-criticism. And so there's maybe some shifting of beliefs and programs that need to happen there, which again can be done in the theta session. And so starting there, how am I speaking to myself? How am I speaking to my body? And then, am I allowing space for me to fully have my own experience? And am I allowing anything that isn't in alignment with that experience to just fall away?
Yeah.
And with full understanding that it could be your relationship, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a job, right?
Yeah.
But doing this with purpose, knowing that you're gonna, right, knowing that you're going to, that's not the end all be all. You're gonna let those things fall away. And as you continue to raise your own vibration and learn how to live, you will attract other people who also are doing that work, who also want to live, right? Because if we're in a space where we are not wanting to live, or not fully participating in life, then we're going to attract partners and friends who also don't want to live life, and then, or don't know how to live life. And then we think that that's all that there is. We think that that's the only reality that there is, but that it's not. That's just what we're a magnet to at that time. And so going through this whole process, you have to remember that there is a whole other reality. There's multiple realities out there that you will align with based on how you are allowing your inner reality to be. And so if you want to attract authentic friends, you have to first be authentic with yourself. If you want other people to hold space for the fullness of who you are, you have to first hold space for the fullness of who you are within yourself, without apologizing or denying or shaming or anything. Yeah, Betsy says, so stop labeling myself.
Yeah. Don't put yourself in little boxes.
Yeah, girl, if you are describing yourself as so shifting from I am, unless you're manifesting, unless you're like, I am amazing, I am awesome, I am
Yeah.
God incarnate, I am successful. Like, unless you're doing those kinds of I ams, understand that the I am manifestation works both ways. Like, if you're I am depressed,
All
I
the way.
am sick, I am, then that is yes. If you're doing I am any of that. So giving you a new language, I'm going to say, the experience I'm having is one of depression. I'm experiencing some depression. I'm experiencing what it feels like to have a broken heart. I'm experiencing, and because when we're getting stuck in the labeling of uh I'm a broken heart walking around, right? Just to use Betsy's word, right? And I'm not picking on you, Betsy. I'm so grateful that you're communicating and doing this. Like, so definitely keep it up. And I hope that you don't feel like I'm like picking on you, but I'm just using a real world example that you give. And if we say, I'm a broken heart walking around, understand you're going to continue to be a broken heart walking around. Or you can say, I'm experiencing what it feels like to have a broken heart. And I know there are other experiences that I'm going to have. This isn't who I am. This is just an experience that I'm having. I'm experiencing, for me, it was like, I'm experiencing what Lyme disease looks like at this moment. And as soon as the experience is no longer serving me, it'll go away. When we say I am, we own that. We tell the universe, this is mine. This is mine, and you can't have it. And so the universe will go, okay, if that's the experience you want to have.
This is who I am. I'm choosing. I mean, it's literally the vibration of I am. The
Yeah.
I am. I mean, this is like one of the most primary forms of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, mysticism, alchemy, spirituality, magic. Uh, but it's manifestation, it's existence. This is what we're doing.
And
And to be whatever we want,
we
which
can,
is what I was talking about the other day, the I am sorry. That's a huge one that I feel like a lot of us really need to. I mean, just use the I am, but use it consciously.
use it consciously. And also um looking at, so this is how programming works, right? So if we're saying I'm a broken heart walking around, right? Um or like the next thing she said was, I'm too sensitive. Well, the sensitive thing I'll talk on right in after this. But if we say I'm a broken heart walking around, understand the way that the brain works is that it will only keep programs active if it is serving us in some way. And this is how theta works, because we work with your programming so that you can see that this program that you have running of, for example, I'm a broken heart walking around, it's getting you something. And we call these secondary gains. And now these secondary gains, they may not be things we're most proud of, right? But it is basically having this thought or belief or behavior is getting a need met, and we just need to realize that, oh, this is actually serving me, but I can get that need met in another way, in a better way, in a way that doesn't hurt me. And then the brain will go, oh, okay, boop, and it'll just like toss out that old belief. So looking at, if I'm walking around and I'm saying I'm a broken heart walking around, it might be, and I'm not saying that this is you, Betsy, I'm just giving an example of what it might be for somebody. It might be, this is how I connect. This is how I connect. When I say I'm a broken heart walking around, then other people also talk about how they're a broken heart. And so it might be a way to form connection. It might be a way that I get nurturing, right? If I'm walking around and I'm having a broken heart all the time, it might be a way that I'm getting attention, right? It might be these things. And so if we can just go, oh, the need is connect. How can I meet that need in a way that I don't have to hurt myself to have it? if I'm craving a connection, what things can I do to create connection that build me up instead of break me down? You know, and again, like going deeper into that, we would do that in a theta session, but that's just an example. For another example, I made myself sick for many years, and I will say that I made myself sick because being sick was how I got nurtured. I didn't know that I was just allowed to ask for nurturing. I had been shamed for it. So instead of going to people and saying, "Hey, I need some love and attention right now," um, I would make myself sick, and then I would get the attention and I would get the nurturing. Also, I had no idea what boundaries were. I was never allowed to put down boundaries. Boundaries was like a bad thing in my family. If it was me putting it down, I was stubborn. I was this, I was this, I was this. And so I learned that if I was sick, I didn't have to put a boundary down because it could be my boundary. Oh, I can't because I'm sick, or you know what I mean? So then it was like, oh, I need to learn how to put boundaries down without being sick.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's that kind of work. Like, look at how these behaviors is serving you. How is at the point when we get to the point where we're say, okay, we're being authentic, we're going to allow ourselves to feel the depression, we're going to allow all the things to fall away, and we're going to feel all the grief and sadness that go along with that, knowing it's a good thing, right? Although this is extremely painful, I know this is really better for me because I'm being authentic with who I am. And so if these things are falling away from me, it's because I'm attracting people, places, and things that are going to also reflect their authenticity. So I'm going to feel the grief, and I'm going to let these relationships, people, places, and things go, knowing I'm bringing in other things. And it's that alchemy, like Joey said, it's really an alchemy of feeling this and that, acknowledging this is how I'm feeling now, and this is what I want, right? And so once we get into this space of okay, I have felt all the depression, I have felt all the sadness. Oh wait, time out. I wanted to go back to sensitivity. Joey or Betsy had said, I'm too sensitive.
Oof.
That out.
No more.
Stop it. No more. Because we need sensitivity. It is a need not only for ourselves, but for a global consciousness. Like, sensitivity is needed. And people who have said you're too sensitive, that's not it. It's that they're not sensitive enough. They have shut themselves down, and now they want you to shut yourself down. They have allowed other people to overstep their boundaries, and now they want you to allow other people to overstep your boundaries, right? It's there. This was one of the things that when my mom died, because my mom was the number one person that was, you're too sensitive, you're too sensitive. When she died, I was like, that's it. I'm not allowing anyone in my life to tell me I'm too sensitive. My sensitivity is a gift. I believe I'm sensitive for a reason, and I'm going to see what that looks like. And I did. I got rid of anyone in my life. There is not one person in my life that tells me I'm too sensitive or I'm oversensitive. And I'll tell you, if they do, they're gone.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to shut down my gifts, right? Or maybe they're not gone right away. I would say, no, it's you. It's not, that's not me, that's you. And give them a chance to realize that and work through it, of course. But if they're stuck on, no, it's abuse at this point. And because I did that, and I had a lot of people fall away when I made that rule for myself that no one was going to tell me I was too sensitive anymore. I had a lot of people fall away because I had a lot of narcissists in my life. And narcissists will be the number one people that will want you to shut down your sensitivity. And so I had a lot of people fall away. But now everything I do with my clients is based on my sensitivity. If I didn't allow myself to step into my full spectrum of sensitivity, highly sensitive, which, it can be troublesome sometimes. I'm not saying it's like a perfect thing, but it has allowed me to fall into my passion. It's allowed me to manifest abundance for myself. It's allowed me to attract other people who are also highly sensitive. And now we do highly sensitive things together. And I have a whole community of people who are sensitive just like me. And it's beautiful. But I would have never aligned with them if I kept allowing people to tell me I needed to shut down my sensitivity. That is number one thing an abuser will say. If you've got people around you saying you are oversensitive, I just really encourage you to look at, is the relationship healthy? Because that's going to be the number one thing that someone who is an abuser is going to try to use against you. So I just wanted to note that. But so, and yes, Belinda, using illness as a boundary, and especially if you are going through the understanding that the body is the communication device. If you're dealing with any parasite or any virus, those are metaphysical reflections that you are struggling with boundaries, because it's an invasion. Right? It's an invasion of our cells. It's an invasion of our body. And so that if you're dealing with any kind of illness, it is a direct reflection from your higher self or God or whatever you call that, oversoul, or it is a direct communication from the higher part of yourself that, hey, you are not having boundaries. Mm-hmm. As you learn to actually put down boundaries, then remember, as within, so without. So first we have to have boundaries with ourselves.
Yes.
Right. Boundaries for me look like, and as I said, I'm feeling a little, going through some depression, and this is why, because I have not had boundaries with myself. I have been staying up late scrolling. I have not been doing my hour of meditation a day. I have not been doing my yoga and moving my body. I haven't been doing the things that make me want to be here and make me want to live. And so, surprise, I feel depressed, right? Now, with that, I've also had to look at, like, the depression, like, I'm thankful for it. Like, oh, it feels good to feel sad. I have felt really good for a while, right? So there's a part of it that's like, oh, there's that sadness, my old friend, right?
Yeah.
Right. There's that part of also, I'm sad because I looked at the world.
Yes.
In my own little pocket of the universe, I'm really happy. But I made the mistake of looking at what the collective consciousness was dealing with. And that made me feel sad. But in that feeling sad, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to process it. I'm going to alchemize it. And then I'm going to create what I want to see.
Yes.
Right? And so it's all okay. Like it's all okay. But we don't want to get stuck there. Yeah. Parasites, Linda, are definitely, it's a boundary, right? It's crossed the boundary. You've been invaded. And so I want to encourage you to first have boundaries with yourself, which is, I think, the hardest place, like, really, because nobody else is going to know if I don't have boundaries.
Most of it just kind of starts falling in line. If you could, those self boundaries, though.
Yeah.
And I have all sorts of things around them, like, all sorts of excuses, like, oh, it's just mean to have boundaries for myself. Oh, why would I do that to myself? No, dear, it's not mean. It's one of the most loving things you can do.
Yeah, boundaries are love. And I think that's one of the, I mean, like, you hit the nail on the head, Joey. That's the thing that we get stuck in. A lot of us that have issues with boundaries, we were kind of indoctrinated that having boundaries was mean.
Yeah. How rude. Who do you think you are?
How dare you not let me do whatever I want to do with you,
You
right?
not even love me? Like what? Like you what do you mean you love yourself more? What? Like that is so selfish.
Yeah, yeah. Having boundaries is selfish. These are also our programs that we can work on in theta,
Oh,
like pulling the program that having boundaries is selfish and downloading what healthy boundaries look like, what healthy boundaries feel like. I'm going to be working on creating some videos. I'm putting it out there. I'm putting it out there. I'm going to be creating some meditation videos and some videos that y'all can listen to and shift some of this programming if you're not able to afford sessions with me. So at least you can do some work yourself, because we can heal ourselves. You don't need anyone else. You don't need me, you know? Sometimes it's nice to bring someone in to help coach you through things, but ultimately all the answers that you need are within yourself. And and you know, I think we have soul contracts. Like I definitely have had soul contracts with people come in my life to help me remember what I know, right?
yeah.
But really, the answers are within you. We are all our own healers, you know. And so I think by creating some videos, maybe that might encourage people to see how to do that themselves. But anyway, I digress. So
I also think it's important to have these kinds of tools like videos because like we were also talking about earlier, we do already know better. So for some reason, when you're in the middle of it, it's real easy. You can know you know better, and you're certainly willing to beat yourself up for knowing better. But sometimes you just need somebody to remind you. And if you have a quick video you can pull up, be like, okay, let's recenter.
yeah,
Let's
or
start over.
walk me through it. Like I was dealing with some inner child wounds recently, and
Mm.
this is what really spurred this inspiration for me to create some videos, because I was looking up data. Like I'm looking for someone that can do with me what I do with them, you know, because I can do a lot. I can reprogram myself a lot, but sometimes, you know,
You need,
get in
yeah,
our way, you know.
yeah,
And so I was researching videos to help process these programs and stuff, and I saw there's nothing. There's all these videos that are affirmations, like which we would say downloads, right? But there's not any videos out there that pull the program and then download the new one.
right.
So that's what I'm going to be working on. But yeah, I want to encourage you, Melinda, or anyone that's dealing with any kind of parasite or virus. Bacteria lives in us naturally, so bacteria is not necessarily a boundary cross. It depends on what kind of bacteria you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
So, but it's going to be a direct reflection of you not having boundaries. And so, if you start working with your own programs of where am I not having boundaries with myself, and baby steps, right? Pick one thing. I'm going to have a boundary here. Pick something easy and stick with it. That way, you'll build trust with yourself. Because if we're dealing with a lack of boundaries, then we're also dealing with I don't trust myself, because of course you're not going to trust yourself because you don't have boundaries. So you have to teach yourself that you can trust yourself. So pick something small, pick something very easy, pick something that you're going to be able to do on an ongoing basis. Something like first thing in the morning, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to get sun in my eyes for 10
Yeah.
minutes, right? Something simple, something that you don't really have to exert a lot. You just got to go sit outside, right? For me, one of the first boundaries I had was I'm going to brush my teeth every morning and every night, because I wasn't doing that. I was completely neglecting my body. And that's why I had so many problems with my teeth, right?
Yeah.
So, or I'm going to wash my face every day. Like just tiny little things. Pick something tiny that you can do to have a boundary with yourself. And then you can go further from there. What kind of food you're eating, exercising, yada, yada, yada. And then you'll start to see that you can have boundaries with yourself. And as you have boundaries with yourself, then it becomes easier to put boundaries down with other people, because this awesome thing happens when you begin to have boundaries with yourself. And that's called self-love.
Yeah.
And so as you begin to put boundaries down with yourself, this self-love will begin to generate. And when you love yourself, you will not have people in your environment that threaten. And so then you'll be able to put down boundaries with other people. You'll be able to see the people in your environment that are not healthy or not conducive to you raising your vibration. And you'll put down boundaries, and they will either choose to redirect themselves so that they can stay in your life while you're raising your vibration. They're going to shift up or shift out of your life, right? Just like we are going to shift up or shift out of our own life. People, places, and things will either shift up with us, those who are meant to be on our full journey with us. Like, I have a few friends that I've been friends with for, decades, because as I've come to them and said, hey, this is something I'm no longer comfortable with, they're like, great. Yeah, I totally get it. We won't do that anymore. And they shift up with me. And then I also have lots more, often than not, things that where I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at now. And they're like, okay, well, that's just not, that doesn't align with me, or they're mean and nasty, and then they just gotta go.
Ghost.
Betsy said, as far as downloads, do they ever come to you through light patterns with your eyes closed, almost in an almost sleep state, or is it just me? So that's the theta brainwave, Betsy, that brainwave that we're in right before we fall asleep. We also go there when we are meditating or praying. I think Joe Dispenza calls it the God vibration, the God realm. That is where you go when you're being hypnotized, right? And so, yeah, downloads can come. Everybody gets downloads different, and basically under like the whole thing of a download will be, oh, now I have this new understanding, right? Like maybe not everybody hears it. Like for me, I have beings, I call them my soul council, that literally talk to me. I hear them talking, not in my brain, not in my ears, but in my brain. I hear them talking to me. And I thought I was schizophrenic at first. So I had to go through a whole experience where I realized I was not schizophrenic. And the one rule is, if you ever hear anything that is more than love, if you ever hear anything that's telling you to hurt someone or hurt someone else, right, then it's not a download. Don't pay any attention to it. But yeah, downloads can come, like I'll be zoning out. I'm not even about sleep. I'm just like totally zoning out. And then suddenly I'm like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah. And I don't know, is it like that for you, Joey? It's just like, like,
yeah. So, and something will just kind of like start to, it's like if you kind of like can step out a little bit or step back a little bit, like pieces start to fall in place. And it's like you've known it the whole dang time anyway. You're just like, oh yeah.
Remembering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, remembering. And but when I'm talking about downloads, as far as like doing theta, the downloads I'm talking about,
they're very intentional.
It's a very right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very intentional. It is a putting you into a trance state, and say we've spoken about boundaries, right? And say we've identified that you believe boundaries are selfish, or you believe you're not allowed to have boundaries, or you believe, or you keep yourself you keep yourself secure by not putting down boundaries. This is a thing, because some people get their needs met by having no boundaries, and they, this is my own thing of, I had no boundaries because if I had a boundary down, then I might not have a place to live.
Yeah.
Homeless.
Right.
And so I couldn't afford to have boundaries because if I put a boundary down with this person I was staying with, they could very well tell me, well, get the heck out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept myself secure in this really perverted sense of the word, by not having boundaries. And so it would be like, going into the theta brainwave, and then, okay, we're going to pull this program of I keep myself secure with a lack of boundaries. I'm going to pull the program of having boundaries is selfish. I'm going to pull the program, I will be punished for having boundaries, yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to download, I am allowed to have boundaries. It is healthy to have boundaries. I know what boundaries look like. I know what boundaries feel like, yada, 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 going through all that. And then we're going to teach the body how to live without having a fear of boundaries. And it's this whole process. So when I'm talking about downloads, as far as theta, that's what I'm talking about. It's a very specific, intentional. We're downloading this thought, this belief, this action, or we're pulling this thought, belief, or action. And the way that that works is then that vibration is active within you. And as we've said multiple times, as within, so without. So if you don't have a vibration active within you that says, I'm allowed to put down boundaries, then in your outer world, you're not going to be able to put down boundaries. But if we activate that vibration within you and we pull the blocks that are in the way, then you will have the vibration of boundaries are healthy. I'm allowed to have boundaries. Boundaries are love. And so you will be able to create a reality that mirrors that back to you. Does that make sense? Did I say that in a understanding way, Joey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely if anybody has any questions. And it, and Fate is like one of those awesome hacks, right? This is life hack.
Full hack.
I love it. It's one of my, I mean, I have to say, out of everything, and hey, man, I've definitely been a seeker of spiritual life hacks. Out of anything I've come across, other than maybe the what is it, BQH?
Oh yeah, BQH. That's the other thing that I do.
I think the theta is. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the ultimate forever. I might find something just as cool, but man, as far as the amount of work that you can do in the most efficient, effective way, in the most efficient, effective amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, let's cut out the BS as much as possible. Like, I don't have time for that. I don't have the attention span for that.
Isn't it? Like, and I remember my first, so next week I want to talk all about theta, like really digging into what it is, what a session is like, how it works, why it works. We're going to like really dig into theta. So I don't want to go too far into it, but but I remember when I first got my first theta healing, and me thinking, like, going through it, and I'm just a skeptic.
Yeah.
And so I remember being like, really?
Right.
Oh, okay. We're just gonna pull this and down, like, okay, lady, sure. And then the change that I saw in such a short period of time and how I moved in my world, I was like, oh, this is it. Like, this, why have I been wasting my time with all these other things when like theta is so efficient, so fast? I love it. I love it. I love it. It to me, it's like in the Matrix when Neo is like, I need to learn how to fly this helicopter, and they hook him up and they download, like, now I know how to do this.
It's the closest to that, yeah. And I've been looking for that since I saw that dang movie. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and I think that, there are some programs that are held in place by society. Like, if enough people believe that something is possible, it becomes possible. But if enough people believe that it's not possible,
Yeah.
it'll be like flying, for example. If we had the collective shift into believing that humans could fly, then humans would fly.
Right. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. And so I think, like, we will get to the point where we realize we can download like that. Like, oh, I need to learn. Like, we're right now. That's why I feel like AI is the in between of us doing this. Like,
Right.
we are going to connect to the AI within us already,
Yeah.
and we're going
Yes.
to realize one day, oh, I don't need to download it into this technology. I can literally just download it into me.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I download that I know how to write a grant proposal. Done. And then we'll be able to do it. That's what I think. But anyway, okay, so getting back to the topic, because I'm gonna have to get off. I can push it to 45.
Okay. Okay.
Because we're really on a roll. That's encouraging. I've tried so many different tools with little success. Girl, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, I totally hear it. I hear you. I mean, and it's like when I say I don't have the attention span, it's insane. Like I will be completely fascinated with something and be like, okay, I see the underlying reasonability. I see how this pattern can work. But if I don't have immediate results, I've already moved on. I
Right.
can't, yeah, I can't continue doing subtle shifts are hard for me. I want something big, you know?
Yeah.
So, and this creates, oh, and I wanted to mention our mutual friend. I won't say your name because we, you know, I didn't ask her if it's okay, but how I met you, right? It's because that girl was raving about, she became like a completely different person. Now, you know, not like where I didn't recognize her, but she just became this sort of unencumbered version of herself suddenly. And it was really beautiful because she was just able to be happy and be herself and be joyous and live. And, you know, of course, you know what that does is that leaves you room so you can uncover another layer that you can do fade on. But, you know, right. It's a process. It's all a process. However, yeah, that's how I listened to her talk about it. And I was like, what? I thought I knew about all the things. Well, I mean, not all the things, but I know about a lot of them. So yeah, it's almost like hypnosis slash matrix movie level reprogramming, computer reprogramming. I mean, we know our brains work like computers. And then there's the whole, you know, fractalization of that out into our energetic field. And that's just, you know, we got to just learn which programs to put in.
Yes. Yeah.
Take
and
out those
that they are programmed.
Yeah, just rewrite the code, man.
Rewrite the code. That's really it. Like that's really it at the end of the day. We are coded and
Yes.
rewrite our own coding.
And we're constantly being recoded. So we might as well be a participant in that. You know what I mean? In a conscious way. Obviously, we're doing it one way or another.
And like Joey, I know you brought up our friend, but like even you, like your transformation from when we started to work together,
Yeah.
like the work that you've been doing is
I'm in a really dark place, you know, and I'm not saying that I don't still have moments that I can touch that place, and I do.
Oh, did you go away? I think her tablet died. Joey? Okay. Well, I'm sure she'll be back. Maybe I think she'll be able to join us. She'll probably just have to charge her tablet. But Joe, I'll just say, okay, here she messaged me. She's had, okay. Yeah, she said it died. So she'll be back on in a moment. In the meantime, yeah, Theta, it's a biohack essentially. And it's been the number one thing in my life that has worked better than anything else. And that's why I do it. And then the other thing she talked about was BQH, which is beyond quantum healing. And that is consciousness exploration. It is going in, they used to call it past life regression, but it's more than that. It's what Dolores Cannon did, but now it's on steroids essentially. And we can explore your consciousness. We can talk to your higher self. We can talk to your soul council. We can talk to aliens. We can talk to you in a past life. We can talk to you in a future life. We can talk to past loved ones. Like we can go and get amazing healing. If you want to see someone do beyond quantum healing, like her focus is beyond quantum healing, it is, you can look up Quantum Healing Within on YouTube. Her name is Heather. She's who I go to for my healing sessions, where my focus is theta, and then I also do BQH. Her focus is BQH. She's been doing it for a long time. She's really amazing. So I highly recommend you going over. And also there's Tony from, let me, ropes and wings. He also does theta, or not theta, he also does beyond quantum healing. And where with theta, it's me telling you all of the things that I'm downloading and hearing, and me shifting and doing all of the stuff. With beyond quantum healing, it's me walking you through and you telling me what you're seeing and who you're talking to and talking to the angels. And it's a whole different experience, but we will get more into that next week. Hi, Mandy. Yeah, so join us next week for sure, for Topic Tuesday, because that is the whole topic we're going to be talking about, theta healing. And I think Joey is joining us, if I'm not incorrect. But so getting back to the topic, that there she is.
I'm not incorrect.
So next week we're going to really dive into theta healing. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to see if a few of my other clients would mind popping on so that they can share their experience. Yeah. Maybe our friend that we're talking about, she'd be open.
Oh my God, that would be cool.
That would be really cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, Melinda, that's how I met you, was through Heather. So yeah, she is fantastic. I love her so much. And Tony is absolutely amazing and wonderful. They're amazing BQH healers. That is their main focus. I am still in the beginning phases of learning how to do it. I just got certified, so I love practicing, but and doing, for me, really, it's been me creating my own thing. Like I do theta, I do BQH, and I do spiritual life counseling and metaphysical counseling. And so what I've done is I've taken all of those and I've kind of created my own thing. But again, we'll talk more about that next week. I want to get back to the topic of how to want to live. And so the first step, it's 2:22 here. Yay. So really allowing the authenticity, accepting where you are, allowing the depression. The rule, I'm not allowed to kill myself, right? And then just be present with yourself, be present with the sadness, really dive into it. Let all of the things that can't support your fullness of who you are to fall away. And then eventually you get to the point where the sadness and the depression will genuinely not feel good anymore, right? Because you'll have that sweet spot for a while where, yeah, it's sad, but somehow it'll feel good to feel sad, right? Yeah. But then it'll reach a point where it'll literally wreck your life. And not in a way of like having things fall away that are no longer serving you, but like your body will start to fail, right?
Right.
You will stop eating, you'll stop functioning, right? And so that's like a good sign that, hey, it's time to shift out of the depression and going into using your body. If we want to live, then we want to use our body, but like the body is kind of what makes us human, and so the next step of pulling myself out of not wanting to be alive was learning how to use my body and learning how to enjoy using my body, learning how to use my body in a way that felt helpful, instead of a way that felt like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, that looks like yoga. I really enjoy yoga. I'm getting into Pilates now.
Ooh.
But also it looks like going running around outside with my kids and going to the beach and racing my kids going as fast as I can and wrestling with my kids or wrestling and playing around with my fiance, using my body, cooking, using my body to cook delicious, healthy meals, using like actually being in the body. And if we're
Yeah.
dealing with physical ailments, pay attention to how much there's a paradox there, because if you're dealing with physical ailments, there's probably a big possibility that you're dissociating, and you're dissociating because your body is a painful place to be. But in order for you to heal your body, you have to be in the body, which again brings us back to feeling the pain. Feel the pain, acknowledge it, find out where it's coming from, look at the programs attached to it. We've got to like needle our way through the haystack to figure what.
You really be detective.
Yeah, you really got to be a detective. And again, if you need help with a detective, that's why we have other people that we can go to.
Yeah.
And using the body, and then it kind of will cascade out from there when we shift our internal program, when we allow space for our feelings, when we enact boundaries with ourselves, when we start embodying having a body, it'll be natural. You will naturally have a different reality. You will, like they did this experiment with rats, where they had rats in a cage and there was nothing for them to do. They had made it basically miserable, and they had one water bottle that had cocaine in it and one water bottle that was just water, and they had a cage where there was nothing for them to do. They were miserable. Then what they noticed was all the rats got addicted to the cocaine water. And then they had a world created for the rats where there was lots of things for them to do. There was lots of community building and relationship building. There was lots of all this other stuff. They had good food available. They still had the one water bottle that had cocaine, and they still had the one water bottle that was regular water. But because they had a healthy, thriving life, every once in a while a rat would go and get the cocaine, but all of them, most of them came off of the cocaine water. And that is really like a big example for us in our life of our our cage that we create for ourselves, or our tank that we create for ourselves, our little pocket, our little bubble that we create for ourselves is going to drive us towards living or dying. And so you have to really, that includes cleaning your house, like, and understanding that. And I'm not talking about having a spotless house or anything like that, but I'm talking about, if you saw my house right now, it's in a disarray. Why is it in a disarray? Because internally I'm dealing with depression. It's a direct reflection of how I'm feeling. So I know the way I can biohack my inner experience is by cleaning my house. So like that's on my schedule if I'm going to clean my house. And then if my house is clean, then it affects how I feel inside. And then I can feel better. And it's just these tiny little shifts up. Like really keep remembering that as without, so within. That the external world that you are experiencing right now is a reflection of your inner thing. So if you have a hard time even noticing that you're depressed, such as I do, use your external cues. Start looking for what's going on. Is your house tidy? You know what I mean? Are you a hoarder? Are you holding on to things? Like there's so many things in our external reality that will show us, hey, you got something going on within you. And if you that internal reality, the external reality will naturally change. And then it becomes so much easier to want to participate in your life. Now that I have a world that I've created for myself where I feel safe in my pocket, Again,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I look at the bigger reality, and I'm working with the collective consciousness,
Yeah, you didn't fix the whole planet yet.
right? But I fixed my corner of the universe. I live in an intentional community. I live within my means, right? So we don't have to work two jobs to make our lives function. I did all of the work to align with a reality where I live with gift economy. Like I homeschool my kids so I don't have to participate in the bullshit of the school system. Like I did all these and it took me, 15 years to get all these changes, but where I'm at is I have this beautiful pocket of the universe that I feel safe in. And so I I don't usually feel depressed, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
what happens every single time, if I back away from eating well, using my body, acknowledging my feelings, allowing myself to feel the depression, because what happened was I got really sick. I got the flu or whatever when I was in the Keys. And it did crazy things to my brain this time, like made me think really uncomfortable thoughts that still make me feel uncomfortable thinking about them. But I talked to some people and they said that that's normal, that fevers make your brain do funny things. So then after I came out of that, I was like, I don't know, I feel like something bad is happening. I could feel, I put my boundaries down and I could feel a collective consciousness. I called my friend. I was like, hey, what's going on? I feel like something really big is happening. And then I learned about the fires in Maui and I learned about all of the stuff that was going on. And then I felt all of the collective sadness and
Yeah.
all and it dropped me down. And because I hadn't been doing my hour of meditation, using my body and eating healthy foods, it got me. It just got me. And so now I'm going back into exactly what I'm telling all of you guys to do. I feel like I have felt my feelings. Um, I feel like I've processed the pain and the grief that I feel. And I realize that the only way I can be of service to people in Maui or people in New York or people in Ukraine or people in all of the world that is, suffering, absolutely suffering right now. The only way I can be of any service is by shifting my own vibration up because
Yeah.
that ripples out, right?
Yeah.
So if I actually am caring about these people and I'm not in something called empathetic distress,
Right.
which is processing our feelings through other people's experiences, right? If I'm actually caring about them, then I'm going to take responsibility of my own vibration. And I'm going to realize that worrying and crying for them doesn't fucking help
Right.
at all. It is just emotional and mental masturbation. And so I went through, I realized that there was a part of me that was using those experiences to process my own grief that I had. So I just shifted from them to me. Oh, I have grief. Here's my grief. This is what I'm looking at. And I processed all my grief. I felt all my feelings. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to be the superhero that we all came here to be. And the way we put that cape on is by we take responsibility and realize that you matter. Like, you matter, I matter, our vibration, how we feel matters big time. Big,
Yes.
big time. And the way that we can help the world is doing this work of learning to want to live and
Yeah.
actually living and shifting your vibration up, shifting it up, shifting it up, shifting it
Yeah.
up. That ripples out. And even if you don't tell anyone what you're doing, they're going to feel it and they're going to start shifting up. And then they'll shift up and then they'll ripple out. And then other people will shift up and they'll ripple out. And it's just this wave that goes out. And so that's, that's where I'm at. Melinda, I work in retail in the public. So separating from the pain of the world is a real struggle. So let me give you a tool. Okay. It's tough, right? Like it is, it's really tough. And like with sessions, I hear
Right.
all about everyone's grief. So I really understand that. And so what we have to do, this might be a great way for you to start with boundaries, Melinda. But
Yeah.
I understand that you have to, it's very serious. This whole idea of energetic boundaries is
Energetic hygiene.
Energetic hygiene. Yes. So what you want to do is every morning before you get ready to go out, first of all, just, and it can be a second, it doesn't have to take long. Imagine yourself surrounded by a bubble. This is my bubble, right? And if you're in retail, I would even around that light bubble put a mirror bubble. That way, any negative energies that come to you, they're going to see their own reflection and go away, right? They're going to think, oh, something is already here. She's already taken over by this negativity, so I'll go somewhere else, right? So it's kind of like the idea of why the jack-o'-lantern was originally created, was to scare off other spirits. So wake up, ground your energy, make a bubble of light around you, and then a mirror bubble around you. And you can go and you put your hands out in front of you and you go mirrors up. And you can do this before walking into, I used this when masks were a thing and I wasn't masking. And I would, when I didn't do it, if I walked into a store, I would get told, you have to put a mask on, yada, 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 and I'd get kicked out of the store, whatever. Then we started to go mirrors up before we walked in. And what that does is it kind of, it's like an invisibility cloak almost, right? What happens is it puts mirrors up around you. And then when people look, they can't see you, they see their own reflection. Okay? So using the idea of mirrors, all right? But also calling in, I call in my cosmic and galactic family. I call in my spirit guides. I call in my higher self. I call in my ascended self from the future. I call in my archangels. I call in my angel team. I call in protection in the highest and best way for the highest and best good. Really, really do that, right? And then when you are out and say somebody's they got in, or they're telling you about their sadness or whatever, right? If there's a part of you that needs to process that, then do that. Again, be present with your emotions, feel your feelings first, and then you want to realize that those interactions, what happens is if there's somebody sad and we know they're sad, we will pass off a piece of our light to them. We can even do it in passing. We don't even have to talk to the person. Those of us that are energetically sensitive, who came here to do this kind of work, light workers, right? We will pass someone, feel their sorrow, and just, here's a little piece of me to make you feel better. Here's a little piece of me to make you feel better. Here's a little piece of me to make you feel better. Well, if we do that all through the day, by the end of the day, our energetic boundaries are just going to have holes in it. And then we can get attacked, and then we can get sick, and then we get invaded, right? So every night, and really every morning, because when you go to sleep, you leave your body and you travel all over consciousness. And so every morning and every night, you want to say, I call back all of my soul fragments. Do it now. Do it with me. Do it with me. You feel. I call back all of my soul fragments. I call back all of my power. I call back all of my energy from all time, space, dimensions, and realities, past, present, and future timelines, on core belief, soul level, history level, and DNA. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Right? And I know that's long, so like, try to write it down. But if at the very least, I call back all my power, all my energy, all my soul fragments from all time, space, dimensions, and reality, right? If that's like the other stuff is just like being really thorough. But keep doing that, Melinda, especially if you're dealing with boundary stuff. Like even after every interaction, if you hang out with someone and then you feel depleted, you gave a piece of yourself away. Right? So continuously, I call back all my soul fragments. I call back all my soul fragments. I call back all my soul fragments, because there is so much pain and suffering in the world, and it's very easy to lose ourselves. So I wanted to give you that little piece of tools, that little tool, and I'd love to know, if you actually use it and if it helps you. That would be awesome to hear back. Okay, I've had a really wonderful day talking to everybody. I have to get ready. I have a client this afternoon. Yay! So excited. But is there anything else that you think, like, last minute, that we need to touch on, Joey?
I just want to just expand a little bit on just calling back your fragments and parts and pieces. I also find it helpful after I've called back all of my pieces to go ahead and just say I also release anything that is not mine.
Yes.
That with love, I release it, as well as with love, I transmute anything that is no longer in my highest and best good.
Yes, 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 yes.
Do a little bit of work like every day.
Yeah. 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 I say I send, especially after clients, like I say I send whoever it is, I send back all of their soul fragments, right? I send back all of their energy, and then I send back from whence it came, cleansed by the light, like you're saying, like, that's just my language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Melinda, y'all are fantastic. Thank you. I do sit and send out love, starting with myself and then out to the world. I love the mirror idea and calling back my soul priestess. I'll definitely be using it. Awesome. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like it. I would love for our audience to grow. So if it feels good in your heart to share it on your social media, then I would love for that as well, only if it's in alignment. And I thank you all so very much for being here. I love this. I love this. And thank you, Joey. I just adore you and love you so much. And I'm so excited that you showed your face.
Yes, I have a face.
Yes, I have a face. Okay, everybody. I hope that you all have a magnificent day.
Big love.
And so much love, so much love, so much love. We will talk to you next week at between 12 and 1.
Okay.
and next week we're going to be really diving into theta and what that means.
That'll be fun.
So yeah, that'll be great. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much, and have a beautiful, wonderful day. I'm waiting for it to keep up. Okay. Okay, I think now we're ready. I don't know.
Can't tell how far I'm behind on my video here.
Okay.